So I found it quite hard to wear, at least for me, because I just kept futzing with it and I don't want to futz with my clothes. Hi and welcome to Ruka Knits. Today I'm going to talk about the modifications that I made to my diamond jacket. The pattern is by Anne Wenzel. I actually originally knit this piece about 3 years ago. I absolutely love the balloon sleeves on this, and it was my first big cable project, so I was super proud of it. The balloon sleeves are stunners and they are my favorite part of the design. But as amazing as the balloon sleeves are, they're quite heavy, and without a way to close the cardigan, it wasn't designed with a closure in the front. It just kept sliding off my shoulders, especially if I was wearing a camisole or a dress underneath. So I found it quite hard to wear, at least for me, because I just kept futzing with it and I don't want to futz with my clothes. So sadly, I never wore it. It just kind of sat in my closet, and that was a shame. I thought, you know what? Let me try and fix it. Maybe there's a few modifications that I could make to it. My inspiration came from the latest bomber jackets that I've been seeing. They're so cool. But my goal ultimately had more to do with weight distribution. Could I make some modifications to help alleviate the weight being all in the sleeves? I quickly made a sketch just to make sure that everything would work together and the design would be cohesive. I didn't want to mess it up. I had one shot. And here are the 3 main modifications that I made to the diamond jacket. The first thing I did was I adjusted the length. So I think I knitted a little too long for my frame in the beginning. So that was going to be one thing that I'd be happy to change. But shortening it was actually going to help eliminate some of the weight. So I shortened it to just around my hips so I could fold it under to create that bomber jacket style. The second thing I did was I tried to figure out how I could add the front closure. This kind of was a 2-step process because the first thing I had to do was widen the front panels. There was actually a 7-centimeter gap between them, and so I had to add width to either side to make sure it would close. The other part I had to contend with was the ribbing on the edges is actually knit at the same time as the front panels, so I couldn't simply remove it and replace it. Whatever I added to the front, I'd actually have to add on top. And I decided on a double knitted band, and because I was contending with that little bulky piece in behind it, that eliminated buttons. I'd have to add a zipper. And that made the most sense because I could actually tuck the zipper in between those 2 edges and secure it in there. Adding a zipper was also a bit tricky for me because I know nothing about zippers. I was kind of learning on the fly. I made some mistakes in the type of zippers that I ordered. Some were too heavy for the garment. A zipper apparently can be too heavy for a knitted garment. I didn't know that. Some of the teeth were too abrasive. Anyway, after a bit of trial and error, I ended up settling on this one. It actually matched the garment color perfectly. It wasn't too heavy, and it was substantial enough to look good as a jacket zipper. I also ended up hand sewing it in because, again, it was going to be finicky because of that back piece to be put through a sewing machine. And I thought the yarn is probably a little too delicate, and I didn't want to ruin it with the machine. So I hand attached the zipper. First step was pinning the zipper in place, and then I basted it using a contrast color to make sure that both sides of the zipper were in place and aligned. I used this bright red, and then I used the matching color thread to attach both the front and the back panel to the zipper. And once that was secure, I removed the red yarn. And then the last thing I did was I added a different collar. So I removed the original ribbing, and I really like the funnel collar style. So I opted for ribbing with a folded edge, something a bit more substantial that would cinch in the neck and help hold the weight of the garment a bit better. And that folded neck edge also provides a place to tuck in the zipper. And I really love that the funnel neck is actually going to add a bit more versatility to the garment in the colder months. And to be honest, these modifications were a lot easier to make than I thought. I was a little bit daunted in the beginning, but fairly easy to accomplish, and I'm really happy with the way the jacket turned out. A few modifications took it from a project that I was proud of knitting to a jacket that I'm really proud to wear. there you go. With a few modifications, something that sits in your closet can become a staple in your wardrobe. If you have any questions or if I've missed covering anything in this project, let me know below. Thanks so much for following along, and I'll see you soon.